Quite different example is from Little Dorrit, the chapter in which William Dorrit, long resident in the Marshalsea debtors' prison, gives a tea party, entertaining his old friend Nandy from the workhouse, and his new friend and benefactor Arthur Clenham. Dorrit condescends to Nandy and apologises for him behind his hand. Union, poor old fellow, out for the day, he explains to Clenham, who has just sent Dorrit £10, without which there would have been no tea for any of them. Dorrit makes Nandy sit on the windowsill to take his tea, because he smells of the workhouse, and he gives a running commentary on Nandy's decrepit condition to Clenham, telling him that Nandy's hearing and his legs are going, his memory's weak, and that he rusts in the life he leads, a description all too obviously applicable to himself. And after Nandy has left, gently escorted by Little Dorrit, her father remarks on Nandy, still to Clenham, being a melancholy sight, though one has the consolation of knowing that he doesn't feel it himself. Poor old fellow is a dismal wreck, spirit broken and gone, pulverised, crushed out of him, sir, completely. Dorrit is so cheered by being in a position to condescend that he goes to the prison window like royalty, and when the other inmates of the prison look up, his recognition of their salutes just stops short of a blessing. Comedy and ironies of that scene brings Dickens surprisingly close to Jane Austen here. At the same time, his obsession with prison is put to wonderful use, and his father, who appeared in comic form as Micawber, now appears as the tragicomic Dorrit. If Dickens resists being summed up, his life still offers an extraordinary spectacle of someone who drove himself to the limit of his energy in his chosen work, while always pursuing his aim of doing what good he could in a society he thought unjust, cruel, and ill-organised. Dickens, thou should be living at this hour. But he never forgot that his art came before all else. He refused, for instance, to stand for Parliament or to take any public political stand. And even when his beloved France allowed its hard-won republic, headed by a writer, Lamartine, whom he knew, to be overthrown by Louis Napoleon, whom Dickens detested and who became an autocrat and emperor, Dickens continued to spend as much time as he could in France because he couldn't resist it. He wanted to be remembered through his work. He can rest easy, because he is. The brilliant Staccanovite young writer and the suffering older one both made masterpieces. Each novel creates a world and peoples it. There are many flaws, there are weaknesses in plotting. I've talked about the young women being dolls. There's a penchant for melodrama. Never mind. He has the gift described by Joseph Conrad when he wrote of how the artist descends within himself, and in that lonely region of stress and strife, if he be deserving and fortunate, he finds the terms of his appeal. He speaks to our capacity for delight and wonder, to the sense of mystery surrounding our lives, to our sense of pity and beauty and pain, to the latent feeling of fellowship with all creation which binds men to each other, which binds together all humanity, the dead to the living, and the living to the unborn. And here is one final tribute from another novelist, George Gissing, who contrasted Dickens with his contemporary Flaubert. Flaubert was working on Madame Bovary at the same time Dickens was writing Little Dorrit. Gissing wrote, "Not one page of Flaubert gives proof of sight and grasp equal to that evinced in 1,000 of Dickens. This thing cometh not by prayer and fasting, nor by any amount of thinking about art. You have it, or you have it not." As a boy or youth, Dickens was occupied in seeing. As a young man, he took his pen and he began to write of what he had seen, and the world saw with him. On the whole, I think Dickens need not have worried about anyone summing him up or cataloguing his qualities, because the way he lived his life makes it very hard to pin him down as a man. And we are rightly driven to pause and marvel at his work, aware of the complex, driven creator responsible for it, but chiefly absorbed and delighted and grateful for what he gave us. Thank you.
Given the extraordinary nature of Dickens' fiction, How wonderful that his own story can be even more astonishing. All ringlets and geraniums. What a marvellous treat you have given us, and we can't wait for the full volume. From all the hints from Dickens' life, from some of the other lives you mentioned, it's quite clear why writers might be sensibly wary of biographers. It must be tempting for them to pursue the most interesting aspects of their life with all the alacrity of a tabloid journalist. And even if not thus tempted, there is the problem you described of having your life interpreted by a less intelligent person. No such problem if you attract Claire's interest. How fortunate if your biographer is Claire, bringing supreme intelligence, sensitivity, insight, and masterly prose to your story, giving you a second immortality. Biography, curiosity, or intrusion? I refute it thus. Claire Tomalin.